Hello there YouTube, my name is Chuggy and today I am playing, well, not only some Battlefield 3 but a bit of Gran Turismo 5. Today guys, it's question time part 9. Yet again guys, you've submitted some amazing questions. I got 42 questions to try and get through this week. Unfortunately time is pretty limited and, well, this isn't the first time I recorded this commentary, let me put it like that. The original commentary went on for 50 minutes, a bit much, so I've re-recorded. This will be at about 36-ish minutes and, well, I'm going to try and get through all those questions the best I can in that time. And if I miss any questions, they'll be brought in next question time, that's a promise. Anyway, so today I'm playing not only some Battlefield 3, playing some Conquest here on No Share Canals, but also some Conquest on Operation Metro in a bit, but also bringing you a little bit of GT5. A couple of you have asked for some GT5 gameplay, and I thought, well, this is a nice way to bring you a little bit of GT5, a little bit of picture-in-picture, a race around Monza, a shuffle race, which is essentially a race where it's random cars, with no braking assistance. And, well, that was an interesting race in itself. Anyway, I'll introduce it like that. Let's get to some of your fantastic questions. And question 1 this week comes from MDays14, and they ask 2 questions. First of all, they ask, what do I want from F1 2012, and what's the best game I've ever played? Well, the best game I've ever played is a relatively straightforward one to answer. I've got 3 games which I class as sort of the best games I've ever played. They are Metal Gear Solid, Fallout 3 and Red Dead Redemption. Now to pick one out of those 3 I think is a little harsh because they're a little bit different. But if I had to pick one in terms of the impact it's had on me, I'd have to say Metal Gear Solid. A lot of the themes in that game and the series really are coming to be, well, true in real life, which is quite scary. So yeah, that is by far and away probably my favourite game if I had to class it. What would I like to see from F1 2012? Well, for those of you who don't know, I'm a massive Formula 1 fan. I've played plenty of F1 2011. F1 2011, to be fair, was a great effort from Codemasters. 2010 had a lot of issues, which Codemasters fixed, which was nice. But 2011 had a fair share of issues, and basically all I want to see from 2012 is bug fixes. I really do not give a monkeys about the features or anything like that. This year's cars, teams, tracks, that's all I'm looking for to change year to year. All I want is a enjoyable gameplay experience. Codemasters, they spend the time, they put the incredible amount of effort to get the detail in, but the thing is the underlying gameplay is broken. The bugs and things, you just notice it and you don't focus on all the good work they've done elsewhere. We get a bit of weird teleportation going on there. Anyway, you know, the buggy, the situation, the foundations of the game aren't there. So I want the bugs and stuff to be fixed. New network code, because there's some lag and stuff in there. The AI is atrocious. Those kind of fixes before they start adding features. And as long as the foundation is there, the game will be good and I'll enjoy it. At this point in time, I'm not particularly interested in getting 2012. I won't lie. I want to see some serious progress. So bug fixes over features is what I'm looking for anyway. And well, hopefully they deliver, I guess. So thank you for that question. Next question, well, actually 2 questions, come from Gigagoblin and Kui, and they ask, how come I don't play games on PC? Well, the answer really is partly practicality and well, I've had a few bad experiences. So I do have a PC, first of all. I physically don't have it with me at university. It's just something to carry around, and I won't really use it that much because I've got laptops and things to use and whatnot. But basically, the reason I don't really play much PC is that, well, first of all, my machine is quite old. It's got some pretty old hardware in it. But my actual experience of playing with PC players has been pretty bad, to be honest. Now, I'm sure this is just an unfortunate incident, but let me put it like this. The first ever game of Battlefield 2 I played on PC, I was kicked by the admin because I killed him. And because I was a level 1, because, well, his team was being... I think it was Fushi Pass, I forget, but there was an aircraft carrier, his team had no flags. I sat up with a rifle just to see what it was like to use. I clipped him and kick and ban, camping an uncappable home base. Well, where else am I meant to go? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I haven't had a particularly good experience with PC admins and players, hackers, cheaters, whatever else. So I mean, I do play games from time to time. I quite like playing a bit of Team Fortress 2 every now and then, but my overall experience hasn't been great, let me put it like that. So yeah, I have a PC. I don't play on it much for those reasons, but you never know in the near future. There are plenty of games which, well, for instance, Battlefield, the only way you can really play it is on PC for the full experience. So I'm not... Never say never, but for now, practicality, I don't play on PC at the minute. So I hope that answers that. Thank you for those questions. This question comes from Megadude599, and they ask, which of the weapons from the upcoming Close Quarters DLC am I looking forward to the most? Well, to be honest, there are two. There's the long silly weapon, as we call it. It's a variant of the L85A2. It's the light machine gun variant, and I've forgotten its designation, but it has the character's LSW in the name, and it's dubbed the long silly weapon because it's basically an L85 with a longer barrel, and with the intention of it being a light machine gun, really. Although it's got, I believe it has a magazine, like a standard assault rifle magazine size. Never mind, anyway. So I'm looking forward to that. British weapons, always good, always favourable for that. But there's one weapon which I'm really looking forward to, which actually I came to know and love from my days playing Rainbow Six Vegas. I think it was Vegas 2 it was in the first time, I can't really remember. But anyway, the Tavor 12, 21? MTAR 21. It's an Israeli assault rifle based off an M16. It's a bullpup, and it is amazing in close quarters. I'm really looking forward to using that, just because it's an old friend, and it's a great assault rifle. I look forward to unlocking it. There are plenty of interesting weapons coming along. You know, you've got your ACRs, Spaz 12s, I think your Scar Light is in there now, alongside the Scar Heavy. Lots of interesting things. Plus, you know, there's only, I think, been about like 8 weapons shown, and there should be about 10 if it's going to match back to Karkan's weapons in terms of number. So, yeah, plenty of interesting stuff, but those two in particular I'm looking forward to. So thank you, Mega Dude, for the question. Next question comes from Shadow Race 17, and they ask what I think Ghost Recon Future Soldier will be like. Well, I was a big fan of the Ghost Recon sort of series. I really did like playing Graw. Graw 2 I started with. I hadn't played Graw 1. Really enjoyed playing Graw 2. Had a great time with it. The online was amazing. L85 was in there as well, so that was all good. I just really liked the way that it was futuristic, but it was planted in the modern day, as it were. So, you know, it's believable future technology. Future Soldier, I think, is pushing that boundary a little too much. It has the potential to be very interesting. Yeah, I guess we're just going to have to see how it plays out. I hope there's a demo. I'd grab that and give that a go. So yeah, interested. We'll just got to see if it plays in the right way. If it's a bit too sci-fi, I might be a little hesitant. We'll see. Thank you for the question. Next question comes from Dr. B CDPS3, and they ask, what do I think about the addition of 5 flag version of Wake Island in the patch? I love it. It's my preferred version of Wake. Don't get me wrong, the 3 flag version of Wake Island is fine, but for me, the 5 flag version of Wake Island is the way to do it. It's a lot more strategic. There's a lot more focus on taking the actual, if you will, legs of the island and working up, rather than just taking one side, and that's pretty much game over. I really do like the 5 flag variant, and it's in my server rotation for that reason. I just enjoy it. It's a much more tactical, team-based experience. It's a little slower, but it's Battlefield through and through. You know, it's a map where the teams have to, they have to work together to not only attack and defend the separate legs of the island and move forward towards the airfield, but obviously defend as well, depending on what team you're on, obviously. So I really like it, and I'm glad it's in. So thank you for that question. IBZR, and then a little R after that, asks, what would be my ideal car? Well, if we're talking I've got unlimited amount of money, it would be some form of Aston Martin. I just love the style, what Aston Martin is, it stands for. A big fan of Aston Martins. If I had a limited amount of money, it would be a Mazda MX-5. Sports car, experience, but for affordable everyday money. One of those two. I quite like a sporty car. I like a car with an intent, purpose, and don't get me wrong, your sort of city cars and everything, they've got an intent and a purpose, but I'd want something a little bit more, something which excites you as you drive, I guess. Something where you go, yes, this car is capable. I could go on like a track day and push it, kind of thing. But roughly a Mazda MX-5 if I had limited amount of money, or an Aston Martin if I had a lot of money. Thank you for the question. The Lloyd A1 asks 2 questions, really, and they're both great. First of all, he asks, who do I want to win the Formula 1 World Championship this year, and if I could drive for any team, who would it be? Well, the team one's easy to answer. McLaren. British team, fundamentally British design and engineering philosophies, very elegant but powerful. It's got the fundamentals down. I just love McLaren as a team. I back them to the ends of the earth, and to that degree, really, I back their 2 drivers. Of course, being British, being Lewis Hamilton, Jenson Button. The thing I love about those two guys is that they are complete sort of parallels apart. You know, Lewis is very aggressive, you know, it's amazing to watch, whereas Jensen is a little slower, but he's calculating and intelligent in what he does. And, you know, yin and yang, they play off nicely against each other. But to be honest, you know, if I could see anyone I want to win the Drivers' World Championship, it would actually be Sergio Perez. And I'm not just saying this because he did well in Malaysia. He's got talent. And I think if you gave him the right car, and, you know, it might be a Ferrari or a Red Bull, whatever, you know, if you gave him the right car, he would be winning races right now. He is, you know, someone to keep an eye on in the future, and I back him all the way to a future World Drivers title, or who knows, if Sauber's good this year, although it might be asking a little much. We'll see. Anyway, I hope that answers your questions. Great questions. Race actually asked a very similar question to the previous one. Besides the AI, what would I like to see in F1 2012? Well, as I've kind of said, you know, I'm more interested in bug fixes rather than new features. And, well, I guess I may as well wrap it up like that. There are some features I'd like to see. I quite like the idea of perhaps making your own team and race, but depends on the licensing and things like that. But fundamentally, for now, bug fixes, get the gameplay stable, then build from there. There's no point having, you know, a house built on sand, to use that old story. But yeah, bug fixes, please, Codemasters first, features second. I'll leave it like that. Thank you for the question. Next question this week comes from a Sneaky Ninja 1999, and they ask, well, basically, you know, they're thinking of joining the Air Cadets. What's it about? Well, for those of you who don't know, I was an Air Cadet I was an Air Cadet for 3 years, I think, and basically, the Air Cadets, for those of you who don't know, it's, if you're the youth arm of the Royal Air Force here in the United Kingdom, and it's essentially for, you know, teenage kids to learn a little bit about the RAF, the work they do, the history, and give you some opportunities which, frankly, you wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. So in the 3 or so years I was with the Air Cadets, I flew planes, I shot rifles, and obviously, since, you know, there's no firearms on civilians here in the UK, or even the police, only specialised members of the police have firearms, you know, that's quite a thing. But I was more, to be honest, interested in what the RAF were doing when I joined. The Afghanistan and Iraq wars were kicking off, and I wanted to understand what the heck was going on a bit there. So expect learning. There's a lot of learning, a lot of paperwork, but also some incredible experiences. Like there's a charity event called Children in Need, and they had a concert at the biggest RAF base here in the UK, and I was there, and I was able to queue jump about a mile-long queue and see various musical acts do their musical numbers on the dance floor or whatever. So yeah, it gives you some amazing opportunities. I can't recommend joining enough. It's not easy, but it's well worth it. The more you put in, the more you get out. So good times to be had there anyway. So yeah, a Sneaky Ninja, can't recommend it enough. Go and do it, man. You'll enjoy it. The Covets F asks, what do I think about the tank and IFE gameplay now post-patch? Well, as I kind of said in Challenge Chuggy last video out, I like it. There is a food chain where the infantry should be weak against vehicles, and like some vehicles should be better against others. And frankly, I think the changes have brought things back into... well, they've given infantry more options, let's say. And just before I carry on this question, this is this particular race I was saying from GT5. I'm in this Lotus here, and there's no braking assistance. If you hit the brakes too hard, they will lock. And as you'll see, we're driving around Monza here. The first corner is a chicane, and guess what happens? Cue the smoke and the tyre marks. This is a pretty fun race, and quite challenging as well. No traction control, no assist on some pretty ungrippy tyres. I quite enjoy this one anyway. I digress. So yeah, there's a food chain. You know, vehicles should stamp all over infantry, air vehicles should stamp on ground vehicles, and infantry should be able to make an impact on some ground vehicles anyway. And it was the case where, you know, if you're an engineer, you know, in this instance, you know, you should have the ability to seriously damage a tank, and that was not easy pre-patch. So I welcome the changes they've made post-patch. I think that tanks now have to be played a lot more tactically, almost like infantry. You know, you need to flank and do things like that. I think you've just got to adapt. You know, what would previously happen with tank battles and such is you just, you know, spot an enemy, engage, just stop and fire. Now you've got to flank, get this, you know, the jump on enemies. I think it's good changes. Yeah, the tanks are weak, but that's the penalty. If you're clever with them, you can make them last just like an infantry can make their health last. Yeah, perhaps the balance has swung a little bit too much on PC, but you know, it might be just a case of they need to balance it per platform. we'll see. I am personally very happy with the changes. I know a lot of people aren't, but to be honest, there are bigger problems, suppression being one. That's a little OTT, and I think there's a question about it a little bit later, so I'll leave that there. Thank you for the question, Cove SF. An interesting one. I personally am for it. I'll be interested to hear your views, actually. So yeah, there you go. Hibernator 503 asked the next question, and well, actually, this is almost a two-part question, because Warrior95ML asks a very similar question. They ask, what exactly do I use software-wise to record? Well, if you saw my 2,000 subscriber thank you video, you'll have seen the hardware. But the software I use is actually Final Cut Pro X. It's only available on Mac OS X. It's an Apple product. That's the way they roll. But yeah, what I do is I record my gameplay, and I put it into Final Cut, and what I do is I then record the audio in Final Cut as well. That's what I'm doing right now. So I can do all my editing, I can do my picture-in-picture, for example, here, my fancy outro, all the rest, all done in this program, and you just hit one render button, it does the lot. It's very nice. Some pro users were a bit miffed with this version, but mind you, since I haven't known anything else, I don't know what other features, for example, are missing. But I'm very happy with it, and it does the job I want it to do. So that's that. Thank you for those questions. Here's the suppression question. I knew there was one. It comes from Two-Way Y, and they ask, the consensus on, the community consensus is that suppression is, not overpowered, but it's a bit over the top. What's my thoughts on it? 100% agree with the community. It's a bit much. And Alan Kurtz, Demise99 from DICE, said, it would have been higher if they hadn't played tested it and thought, okay, this might be a bit much. There was a higher version they wanted to initially ship, and they provided this. I think it's a little OTT. Whoever fires first, I should say, basically wins the gunfight. Switch out to the pistol, guys. That is a useful piece of advice which I can't share enough, because that doesn't seem to be affected by the suppression mechanic. But yeah, it's a bit OTT, and yeah, I think it's negated on the whole gameplay experience. Hopefully it'll be sorted, but for now, again, just got to adapt and improvise. The pistol seems to be unaffected, as I've just said. Use that if you get heavily suppressed. You might stand a fighting chance. So yeah, there you go, Two-Way. Great question. The Cam Scott asks, what's my favourite class and why? Well, that's the Recon, and well, as you'll be seeing in a bit, the reason I like the Recon is it can be played at very long range, very close range, and it can do its role just as well as anything else. Previous versions of Battlefield allowed the Recon to do other things as well, and there's a question about that actually a little later on I hope to get to. The Recon could do other things in the past as well, but now it's purely anti-infantry. You can use a variety of shotguns, SMGs, or the long barrel rifle weapons. It makes you very adaptable, and I like that. I like to be able to vary it up from shooting targets at range to close range. I just find it, fits my playstyle. So it's the Recon, and that's why. So thank you for the question, the Cam Scott. Good question. Tom Bluegrass 90 asks, what are my thoughts on the SKS before and after the patch? Well, let me put it like this. The next 15 minutes after this Gran Turismo gameplay, I think, should answer that. It was great pre-patch, it's amazing post-patch. I'll say that much. Thank you for the question. I hope you enjoy the gameplay. I deliberately put on the SKS to try and get something for you, and, well, had some good fun. Let me put it like that. Next question comes from, actually two questions, comes from One Brought Down, and they ask two questions. What time do I usually play? It's sort of Greenwich Mean Time, so British time. Well, it's British summertime at the minute, so, well, it's the same times anyway. And why don't I use the 44 Magnum scoped when I'm sniping? Well, normally, to answer the first question, when do I normally play? I normally play of the evenings, from probably, I don't know, about 6, 7 o'clock BST or GMT, to probably, I don't know, about 10 or 11, just depending on how tired or not I'm feeling. That just tends to be when I play. I do my work in the day, and, well, I play in the evening. There's not much more I can say than that. Why don't I use the scope version of the 44 Magnum? Well, I have used it, and it's a very nice pistol. But what I find myself doing is, if I ever find myself, say, playing as the Recon, and I need to switch to the pistol, that's because someone's up close, not because they're at range. And, a scope can be a hindrance up close. So that's pretty much my methodology behind that. It can be very useful at range. Say you've shot someone and you haven't quite finished them off, you might be able to get a lucky follow-up shot. So it can be useful there. But, in general, my playstyle, I prefer it without the scope. It makes it better at close range. I think that pretty much answers that. Thank you for those questions. Next question comes from Extradolted Kaiser, and they ask an interesting question. Do I think they should bring 64 players to Battlefield 3 for the PS3 and Xbox 360? I would love them to. The problem is that the consoles just are not powerful enough. The hardware they've got inside, or at least on the PS3, there's 256 megabytes of RAM for the console, 256 megabytes of RAM for the GPU. The processor's more than powerful enough, but it's the memory which is the problem. And I expect the next generation of consoles will have some fairly substantial memory, or more memory, I should say, compared to this generation. It'd be nice if they could bring it, but the game would degrade. The visual quality, the way it plays out, it wouldn't be a nice experience. I'm quite happy with 24 on the level of graphics and everything else. It's unfortunate, but that's the thing with consoles. It's a set of hardware. It means that the games will be relatively consistent, but obviously you can't have the new bells and whistles as they come along. So there you go. Anyway, third gameplay of today, Operation Metro Conquest, playing as the Americans with an SKS. Let's see what happens. So thank you, Exalted Kaiser, for that. It's a technical limitation. I'd love to see it, but it won't happen this generation. Lancer J is up next with two questions. Their first question is, what do I think, or am I worried, let's say, about the Engineer class in upcoming Close Quarters DLC? Of course, they have RPGs, for instance. Surely that will give them an advantage on the battlefield. Perhaps, and, I just hope that when DICE playtests Close Quarters, they find that either if there is an advantage, that the Engineer loses that advantage or gains a penalty or something, or some other sort of penalty. To be honest, I see the Engineer being very, very useful. The RPG, for instance, blowing out walls and stuff. Although, being a purely infantry map, because there'll be no vehicles on these indoor maps, the Engineer itself already is at kind of a disadvantage. It's not as good infantry fighting as, say, the Assault. They can't regen their health by dropping down a health pack or have a grenade launcher, or say the Support with a light machine gun. It kind of already has a penalty. The RPG is a worry for sure. We just got to actually play it and see what happens. I think that's going to be the proof of the pudding, or in the eating or whatever. I'm mixing up. I'm mixing up my. Blooming hell. Forgotten English. And yeah, this is weird. I don't know if that's that guy I just shot and his body just rolled over there, but I could have sworn there was a guy there. Anyway. Digression. Anyway, that's question 1 from Lancer J. Question 2 is, what's my favourite kind of kill? Is it like a sneaky shotgun kill to the back of the head, or is it a knife? What's my favourite kind of kill? Well, those Schadenfreude, pleasure from other people's pain kind of kills are always good fun to get, but my personal favourite kill is one which I've had to work for. If there's been, say, a target at 700 meters and I get that headshot, to think about the calculations I had to do, adjusting the scope and everything else, that's really satisfying to me, because, there's a lot of work gone into it and I've gotten a reward for that. That's my favourite kind of kill, yeah, I think that's the only real thing I can say, killing people by blowing their head off at point blank with a shotgun is fun, but I prefer the kills you have to work for, let's say. So, great questions. Thank you, Lancer J, for those. Next question comes from Mr. DTCH, and this is the recon question, asking, well, why am I of the opinion that it's good that the recon no longer has Composition 4 or C4 explosives for vehicles? Surely they should get something. Yeah, I can buy that, and obviously Bad Company 2, they did have C4 and they were very effective with it, and I enjoyed playing Recon with C4, I'm not going to lie, it gave me some options. The problem with that though is it made the Recon too versatile, it didn't give it enough of a disadvantage, and personally the way that the Recon is set up now, they're purely reconnaissance work. Since they had C4 previously, there was no moving of spawn points or anything like that, it's kind of refined that the Recon is now purely anti-infantry and should be for reconnaissance rather than doing, loads of damage. If you wanted to do damage for vehicles, for instance, you should be playing Engineer or Support. That's just the way it was. It's this way now, and, well, we're just going to have to adapt to it, I guess. I personally am all for that change, and, I think the Recon's just as powerful as it was before. You just got to change the way it plays out. I think I'll leave that like that. Great question. Broist12 asks, what is my favourite attachments for a mid-range assault rifle post-patch? And actually, there are a few of these, and as I see your names, I'll give you a shout-out as and when. To be honest, I've been finding the bipod is really very useful. Since the foregrip gives you a penalty when you aim down sight now a little bit, the bipod has become a lot more useful. You just pop that on instead, you set it up, and you're very accurate at range. With no recoil, all you've got to manage is the bullet spread so far in bursts. Popping on a bipod onto whatever assault rifle you're using will take it a long way. And for instance, the G3A3 now with a bipod is like a laser, a very powerful laser, and works very nicely. So yeah, a bipod is the first step to a great long-range assault rifle class, and just swap it out with the barrel attachment and optic of your choice. Really, that's all I can really say there. Good question, Brost. Next question comes from Zombie Hunt, and they ask, do I ever plan to play in any Battlefield 3 tournaments, and who would I play with if I were to? Short answer is no. I play games for fun. I'm not in the competitive scene. I know that, statistically and gameplay-wise, I could play and do relatively well, I guess. My stats suggest that, although stats aren't really meaningful of anything at all, but never mind. That's a whole other question. No, I play games for fun. I'm not playing it for money or anything like this. This is a leisure activity for me, and that's the way it's going to stay. If I were to join a tournament, I'd probably play with my clan because I play with those guys a lot. I know the way that they play the game, and that would just be the best outcome, I guess. But yeah, to be honest, I'm not really interested in competitive play. I'll put it like that. Anyway, thank you for the question, Zombie Hunt. Air Fox Patton asks, what's my favourite rifle for the assault kit and why? Easy question, L85A2, why? It's a British weapon and it's like a laser. Cannot beat it. It suits my playstyle down to the ground, the fact that it's British as well, being all patriotic and mumbly-jumbly there, just makes it even better. So very, very, very satisfied as I stupidly go for a knife. I should have just tried to put that guy down first, but never mind. Live and learn. Well, not in that case. Anyway, digression. Next question comes from Scrubber54, and they have a few questions. Firstly, how do you use the TV missile? Is the 44 Magnum any good? And what happened to the USAS-12? Well, the TV missile is an interesting bit of kit. So the last thing you unlock for the assault helicopters, it's a guided missile, and you have a little television screen to help you guide it. Very powerful against vehicles. Don't use it on infantry. It's nowhere near effective enough. If you want to attack infantry, you've got the 30mm cannon, the main cannon on the gunner's seat of those helicopters. Use that. TV missiles useful for attacking targets at range, and if you're lucky, the odd helicopter and things. It's just a case you've got to use it, practice to learn it. It's a little unresponsive, as it would be. There's a time delay from the sending back of the image from the missile to the TV, and obviously therefore your input. But it takes a little bit of practice. Very useful against vehicles, I'll say that much. The 44 Magnum is amazing post-patch, in short. The rate of fire has gone up, it does a great deal of damage, although you only get 6 shots, so you've got to be accurate. So if you've been sniping, for instance, you kind of get in that sort of frame of mind of you've got to be accurate with the shot. The 44 Magnum is a great pistol for the follow-ups. If you need lots of rounds to put someone down, perhaps it won't work for you, but I love it personally. And the USAS-12, well, the USAS-12 got a nerf, in a word, and it needed it. Just the way it was pre-patch, DICE even said it, that there were balancing measures which for whatever reason weren't present on the shotgun. Rate of fire has gone down, the recoil has gone up, and the cone of fire, where the rounds actually go, has gone up as well. Basically to balance it with the other shotguns. What's the point of using a semi-auto shotgun if the fully automatic will always win out in a shotgun using situation? There's no point to using it whatsoever. So it got nerfed to bring it back in line and make the other shotguns more competitive. And do I use the USAS? Not really, no. I prefer semi-automatic shotguns. If there's one on the floor and I've got no ammo left, yeah, I'll pick it up. But that's pretty much the only situation these days where I would. So thank you for those questions, Scrubber. Interesting questions. Jack the Ripper 100 has the next question. I'm wary I'm heading out of time here, so I'm going to try and get through these questions as quick as I can. They ask, what is... here's the next assault rifle question. Well, there you go, Jack the Ripper. I kind of answered. Bipod is the step for a long-range assault rifle kit, in my eyes anyway. So thank you for that question. I've kind of already answered it. Just Me Alive and Kicking asks, would I like to see more classes like in Battlefield 2 where they had like 7 or so classes, like they had specialist anti-tank and things like that? Absolutely. As long as the classes had, advantages and disadvantages and integrated well with the team, I've got no problem with more classes. It varies the gameplay up even more, and I can only see that as a good thing personally. yeah, I would like to see it, as long as it will obviously be balanced and work. Yeah, I got no problem with that at all. So thank you for that question. Dogchar1 and then little R asks, do I use Control Freak analog stick extenders? No, I do not, and in fact it's something I'm pretty hot on. I think any move to use a non-standard controller, at least on console, is almost, it's not cheating, but it's giving you an unfair advantage. You know, I use a standard DualShock 3, which I bought, made by Sony. No, you know, extra buttons on it to give me advantage to map anywhere else. You know, I'm quite hot on that kind of thing. The ability to tell the game to do things in manners where, you know, someone else wouldn't be able to, it's, I just see it as an unfair advantage. So no, I do not, and I never will. It's one of the sort of things that I will always stay true to, irrespective of what happens in the future. So no, I do not, and that's the way it's going to stay. Thank you for the question. It's an interesting question. Jez PD asks a really interesting question. They ask, do you think it's fair that by suiciding, losing a ticket to swap out to, say, in a more appropriate class, say there's a load of tanks moving in on an objective, you swap out to an engineer to destroy them, do you think that suicide is fair by losing a ticket for your team? Yeah, I do, because ultimately you died. You know, if it was really that bad, you see tanks and whatnot coming in, hopefully with any luck, there'll be an engineer kit near you. You just have to pick it up and work with it. Yeah, it sucks that you obviously have the suicide. The team loses a ticket, you gain a death, but you do die in the act of getting that kit. So I see it as being fair. I can completely see where you're coming from with your question. But yeah, I think that's the way it is, and I think it's a fairly sensible way of doing things. Understandable, but yeah, it's the way it is. Thank you for the question. Next question this week comes from Jetback Unleashed, and they ask, boxers or briefs? You know what, I wear both. I don't really see where there's this kind of, oh, you must be one or the other. I use both, wear both. Very nice. I don't really know what to say here. It's fine. Yeah, wear both. I don't stick to one or the other, depending on the weather. I don't know. Kind of a random question. A great question though. All the same, Jetback. Awesome stuff. Yeah, I wear both to wrap it up. Thank you for that. Just Me Alive and Kicking asks, do you need a laser designation for a guided missile, or do you need like a soul flam lock? No, you do not. The laser designation gives you a damage buff with your guided missile, and well, for instance, if you've got like a soul flam and a javelin, you can attack air targets. It does help there, and you do get a damage increase by using that. But no, you can just lock on with its built-in method and do just as fine. Just a little bit less damage done, that's all. Next question comes from Frozen, and they ask, what's my thought on the M26 shotgun for the assault class, which you swap out for, you know, either the grenade launcher or the health pack? I love it. I did a video on it. It's one of my favourite shotguns in Battlefield 3. It's a great thing, and hardly anyone uses it, or at least they didn't sort of pre-patch anyway. It's a great shotgun, can't recommend it enough. If you're an assault player who is quite aggressive, like taking objectives, don't tend to stick with teammates or need to give out health, yeah, I can't recommend it enough. You get all the sort of variation of shotgun ammunition with it. So yeah, it's a great thing. I love it, and well, I might leave an annotation on screen or something now to that video. I called it Mass Effect. I love it. Love it. It's a great shotgun. Amazing. A little too enthusiastic there about weapons again, damn it. I'll leave it like that. Thank you, Frozen, for the question. D-Sexy Clone Trooper asks an interesting question. What games am I looking forward to coming out this year? If there was one, it would be Bioshock Infinite. I really love Bioshock. I love the series. I'm really looking forward to the next Bioshock, obviously. But there are a couple. You know, I'm quite hyped for Counter-Strike Global Offensive being one. You know, there are plenty of good games coming out, and you know there are games coming out in November which haven't even been announced yet. You know, new Medal of Honor and such. There are plenty of interesting games coming out, and I'm looking forward to see what the gameplay offers, and yeah, just having a good time with them, I guess. Interesting question. Thank you for that, D-Sexy Clone Trooper. Chris Halliwell asks a really nice topical question. Do you think the Formula 1 Grand Prix should go to Bahrain? Well, for those of you who don't know, Bahrain is undergoing a little bit of turmoil at the moment. There's some protests, the government is clamping down, shooting protesters, that kind of thing. And Formula 1 is due to race there next week, as it so happens. Do I think the race should happen? Absolutely not. First of all, well, the track is crap in my opinion. It's not a particularly good one to watch, it's not particularly good to race, so it shouldn't be there in the first place. But to go there in a time where there's a bit of political upheaval, people are dying on the streets, I think it's in bad taste. It shouldn't happen, and well, shame on the FIA and Bernie for allowing it. It's money motivated and it's disgraceful. In a word, disgraceful. I'll leave it there anyway. Wacko Jacko asks the next question. What am I studying at university? Computer science, in 2 words. Great course, owns your soul while you do it, but amazing, and gives you some awesome opportunities career-wise afterwards as well, which is nice. Captain Ginge asks a great question about clan tags. How can we make it sales obvious that we are subscribers and while we're playing in your server? Well, that's a great question, and I've actually acted on it already. I set up a clan annotation on screen on Battlelog. I've called it Task Force 7. Anyone can join it. If you join in, you know, set your clan tag in Battlelog to TF3, TF7, Task Force 7, and yeah, it's just a way of identifying people. And basically, my hopes with this little group is that we can get some squads of people together and playing Battlefield as a team. That'd be fantastic. Really good fun, close games. What Battlefield's meant for. That's what I love to see. Great idea. The Ginge one, or no, not the Ginge one, Captain Ginge one. You know, the community can thank you, sir. Great idea. I've implemented top stuff. Yurts1 asks, how much did it cost to rent my server, and do I think it's worth it? Well, it cost me 50 of my British pounds. Actually, that's a lie, 48 pounds. Do I think it's worth it? Absolutely. It makes playing with subscribers, you guys, a lot easier. You know, it's just Conquest maps, which is my personal preference for Battlefield. Yeah, absolutely worth it. And, well, roll on close quarters and everything else, they'll get rotated in as and when. So, yeah, interesting question. I'm running out of time here, and I've got a few questions, so I'll get through these as quickly as possible. The Dogchar1R again asks, do you think there should be a separate toggle button for primary and secondary weapons? So say you've got a laser and a light, laser on a primary, light on a secondary. If you push the toggle button, it switches both off and on. Do you think there should be a separate button? It'd be useful. In terms of the controller, we're out of buttons, so I don't think it will work, but yeah, that would be useful indeed. I actually used the torch actually to help me figure out if I had a laser on my sniper rifle or what, or not, for a little while anyway. It has its uses, certainly, and I had noticed it and used it for that, to that effect. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if you can map an extra button, but the controller's a little busy, let's say, as it currently is, and so yeah. Maybe. PC shouldn't be a problem, they can map keys. And what I'm going to do here is I'll stick in a freeze frame in a second so I can finish these questions, there's only a few more left. Dr. CDPS3 asks another question. How about running like some community days on your server? And this is another thing I'll be doing shortly. I'm going to be running a little series called Battle Nights. I'll set up the server like a certain map or a certain set of maps and some like ticket counts or settings, and I'll record some highlights and upload it. I think it's a great idea. Community days. Keep an eye out for those in the near future, not in the next couple of weeks, but you know, a couple of weeks time, let's say. So yeah, great idea, and that will be happening soon. 11 Extreme Guy asks, let me just have a look here. Yeah, what kind of weapons would I like to see being added to Battlefield 3? Well, there are a couple of quirky ones which I'd like to see. For example, the AT4 from Bad Company 2, the way you could guide it, I could see that being very, very useful indeed. But yeah, you know, the quirky weapons, I guess, is what I would say. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything, I'll be honest. Quirky weapons, you know, something with individual character, I think that would work nicely, I'll say that much. Thank you for the question, Extreme Guy. And You're All Noobs 8943 asks, why am I called Chuggy? Interesting question, and they actually go on to say, when I search your name, all I get is Chuggy Choo Choo Choo, as in trains. And that's why. In a word, actually, when I was younger, and well, I still do now, I'm a massive fan of steam trains, and it was a combination of that, nicknames at school, my actual surname, all came together, and Chuggy was the result, and it was good. So that's that. That's the end of the questions. If you have any questions, or actually I'll say first of all, thank you to all of you for those great questions. I hope you enjoyed the answers. I realised it's been going on for nearly 40 minutes now. I'll shut up shortly. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, please do leave them down in the comments below. There could be anything and anything. Battlefield, games, life, whatever. Please feel free to leave them down below and I'll answer them next question time. And well, what about Challenge Chuggy? Well, this week's Challenge Chuggy is the following. It's going to be Swedish sniping. How very interesting. Anyway guys, as always, thank you so very much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, please do leave them down in the comments below. If you could leave a like, dislike, whatever you believe this video deserves, that'd be fantastic. And if you're new to my videos, you can always subscribe. So guys, I've been Chuggy. I hope you've enjoyed the gameplays and I'll see you next time out on the battlefield.